aspirations of the people, so that there is an orderly way in which this transition takes place, where the citizen-centric governments switch over to the citizen-driven governments. And it is in that context that I'd like to say in 5-6 slides what the open data efforts have been. The essentials of open government, therefore, are open standards, open data, and open technology. And all three of these require, as a matter of fact, a lot of efforts. In spite of the legislation that we've done, the fact remains that the governments today have, and I would talk about India, I would talk about Gujarat, myriad forms in which the data exists, the forms in which the knowledge and the information exists, and the difficulties, in spite of providing all kind of accesses, a common citizen faces in being able to reach to those. So the principles should be, for open government, I talked about the collaboration, the participation, and transparency. In India, way back in the year 2002, when the 10th 5-year plan was launched, the government of India announced its intention for India to become a smart state. And this smart meant simple, moral, accountable, responsible, and transparent. And that was the point of time when the journey towards e-governance began. It was found absolutely essential that if a country has to be a smart state in this sense, it required governance to be backed up by the e-initiatives. We had the NEGP, which began from there, and a number of experiments have been made, number of applications are there, and efforts have been made towards establishing open government, the data sets, uniform and interoperable standards. Many of those regulations have been, and guidelines have been issued by the government of India. And in view of this shortage of time, I'm jumping straight to the challenges of open government as found out in a study carried out by Netherlands Scientific Research Organization, which is illustrative of the kind of challenges that would come in spite of an e-governance structure fully applied in countries as advanced as those of Europe, Austria, Netherlands, Estonia, UK, US. Now, these are the governments where federal and regional governments have formulated open data strategies, and yet the government agencies are reluctant to implement these strategies. What are the top 10 barriers for open government? Countries like Austria, Netherlands, Estonia, UK, US, there is a closed government culture. Stakeholders of all the countries studied, they mentioned the closed government culture as an important barrier to open data policy. As one of the respondents stated, government practitioners are rewarded for secrecy, not openness. Even in India, until recently, what was sacrosanct was Official Secrets Act. And Official Secrets Act was the instrument which was resorted to for not furnishing any and every information to any citizen. It was the beginning of the smart state concept that led to the thinking about the right to information. Unfortunately, today we have a Right to Information Act, which at least gives a tool in the hands of the citizen to go to the government and seek information. It's a different matter as to what information lies there and how much of information can be really accessed. And more beyond that, whether this the information is in the form which is possible to be analyzed, which is possible to be examined from the point of view of finding out further detailed conclusions. Second barrier, in Austria, Netherlands, Estonia, UK, US, privacy legislation. The countries studied have strong privacy legislation. Privacy is the point which actually is used, a tool which is used to deny information, the privacy rights of citizens. So, cannot publish information which leads to the identification of leads to the identification of persons. All countries recognize the tension between open data policy and the privacy of their citizens. Third barrier, limited quality of data. This is what is going to be a serious challenge for both the central and the regional governments in India also, because the quality of data, which is totally within the hands of the government, there has to be, and under I will just touch upon the national policy, which actually now sets standards for the way in which the data must be maintained by the state and the central governments. Several countries suggested that the quality of some government data is too limited to permit its publication. Fourth barrier, limited user friendliness or information overload. It's not user friendly. Technical experts of several countries, it's already over my time.
No, you have 10 minutes.
I have?
Yes.
Oh, you said stop.
No.
10 minutes, okay. So I'll run through this faster. Limited user friendliness. Technical experts of several countries stated that the existing databases should be converted into more user friendly data sets to be of use for citizens and businesses. Lack of standardization of open data policy, a point which we are addressing through the legislation that Government of India is now launching. It is launched in the Gazette notification has come in the month of March 2012 from the Department of Science and Technology. Other major impediments, two major impediments: entrenched closed culture, uncertainty about the side effects. Security threats, in particular UK and US, policymakers and experts stated that because of security reasons, some government data cannot be published. Existing charging models. Charging is actually a crucial issue. A lot of data is available for a price, and the question is then how do you make it accessible to the people? There is a provision for the charging in the Government of India policy as well. In particular, the European countries identified existing charging models as a barrier. Currently, the income of several government organizations is based on selling of data, which makes them reluctant to publish the data. Uncertainty, economic impact. This is one of the fears that the governments have. Digital divide. The respondents in Spain and the US have stated that their governments should solve the problem of the digital divide, whether internet access should be a fundamental right. I think there are countries, very few countries, which have made internet access as a fundamental right. But the fact remains that digital divide is going to be the most disruptive feature in the history of the mankind in the times which are coming. Network overload. Of course, we have a limited spectrum. The path to open governance, the path should be unification and cleaning of all departmental data, leading to interdepartmental data access and communication, leading to inter-state central government data access, and then use of collaborative platforms and social media. In India, it's been talked about, Mr. Gairola talked about RTI. What we have done in Gujarat, some experiments in Gujarat, which have created geospatial data infrastructure, GSDI, of Gujarat, for which we are known at the Government of India. Planning Commission of India has also visited Gujarat to study the way we have been able to create geospatial data infrastructure. Some of the examples are like Watershed Atlas of Gujarat we created. Now, you need data. Vizag is Bhaskaracharya Institute of Space Applications and Geoinformatics. So remote sensing data of that institution, then road, rail, river, okay, thank you. Road, rail, river, water bodies, land use, land cover, wasteland, forest land, degraded lands. Now you'll see that each of these components comes from different departments. Road data would come from the PWD, railways comes from a central government department, river and water bodies, again a different department. Now suppose you want to have a project which requires integrated information of a particular region having all these features. It would take years if the papers are moved from department to department and data sought from them, which in Gujarat is simple because all the departmental data has been mapped on GIS, and it is one single agency, Bhaskaracharya Institute, which actually possesses this data with the consent of all departments. So it resolves the issue of the interoperable standards. The Institute of the Geoinformatics becomes the common platform for the GIS is the common platform on which all data is mapped, and by sheer GIS information system, it is possible to get the data of different departments at one place. So this is one and as a result of this, we have been able to create. In fact, Mrs. Rita Tewatia is here, who's the person behind creating this watershed atlas, and we have today the complete atlas of Gujarat, where the gradient of different areas and the features, georesources of those areas are available on a GIS basis, and it's possible to plan watershed, water planning, water harvesting projects through a single data set. Socioeconomics data, similarly rural development department, which she was heading, so check dam data, dug well data, this all has been possible to be mapped through the data sets available on GIS in Gujarat, and this has been one unique success that we have been able to achieve. Now, there was a PricewaterhouseCoopers study on the Right to Information Act, impact of Right to Information Act in India, and the conclusion was that 75% of the respondents, they noted that the dissatisfaction with the information furnished by the public authorities. So, while Right to Information Act is there, the quality of information that is getting over to the persons, that is not satisfactory. And moreover, today every state has a pendency on right to information of something like a couple of years. It will not be possible before at least 2 to 3 years that all the appeals which are filed by the citizens for against the right to information violations gets decided, that it's also becoming like a judicial system, and unless we beef up the information commissioners' offices, it will become yet another system which will be where the justice delayed would become the justice denied. Incomplete or irrelevant information getting provided, taking more than the stipulated time. Okay. Period for response, lack of automation of processes at all levels of government. So some of the factors about Right to Information Act, its implementation, as is turned out to be, as has come out in the PricewaterhouseCoopers study. This is the national law which has been which has been proclaimed in the Gazette of March 2012. It's called National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy, and of course Aadhaar, Mr. Gairola talked about. Now I could have spoken a little in detail about the National Act, but for shortage of time, I think I'll leave it here, except that the National Data Sharing and Accessibility Policy is designed so as to apply to all shareable, non-sensitive word is there, data available either in the digital or analog form, but generated using public funds. All data which is generated using